Today, we're taking a journey down a river that didn't just witness history, it actively shaped a nation and a global empire. This is a waterway that's been a highway, a sewer, a battleground, and a source of life. This is the story of the River Thames.
You know, back in 1929, a politician named John Burns just nailed it. He called the Thames liquid history. And that's really our theme here. This isn't just some body of water, it's a flowing archive of triumphs, disasters, and absolutely incredible transformations.
So you have to wonder, right? What stories can a 215-mile stretch of water actually tell? Well, let me tell you, it's seen the rise and fall of empires, it survived a near-death experience brought on by its own success, and today, it's teeming with the most unexpected life.
Okay, so to really get the Thames, you have to understand that it's not one river, it's really two. It's got this complete split personality, and it's all defined by one single crucial point that changes absolutely everything.
So where does it all begin? The official journey starts at a little spot called Thames Head, out in the quiet hills of Gloucestershire. From this very humble, sometimes completely dry, start, it winds its way for 215 miles, making it the longest river entirely within England, before finally emptying out into the North Sea.
So let's talk about these two personalities. First, you've got the Upper Thames. This is the calm, freshwater river you see on postcards. It's gentle, it's managed by 45 different locks, and it's a total paradise for leisure. We're talking rowing, punting, lazy riverside pubs. In fact, around Oxford, people often call it the Isis. But then there's the Tideway. This thing is a whole different beast. This is the powerful, saltwater-influenced giant that surges right through London. Its water level can rise and fall by a staggering 23 feet, all driven by the tides of the North Sea. This was the industrial artery, the gateway that built an empire.
And the place where these two worlds collide, it's right here, Teddington Lock. This is the critical transition point. Go upstream from here and you're on the gentle Upper Thames. Go downstream and you're on the mighty tidal river. Everything changes at Teddington. It's the gatekeeper. All right, let's dive into how this powerful waterway literally built the story of a city and eventually an empire. Because you have to understand, for London, the Thames wasn't just a nice feature. It was its entire reason for being there in the first place. I mean, this river has been front and center for, well, forever. The Romans chose this exact spot for Londinium because it was perfect. The first point from the sea that was narrow enough to build a bridge, but still deep enough for their ships. In the Middle Ages, kings built their power right on its banks, most famously the Tower of London. It was even on an island in the Thames, at a place called Runnymede, where King John was forced to sign the Magna Carta back in 1215. For centuries, the river would even freeze solid, leading to these incredible frost fairs held right on the ice. Can you even imagine? And by the 18th century, it was, without a doubt, the busiest, most important waterway on the planet.
So here's the key takeaway. Before roads and railways took over, the Thames was the city's superhighway. It was London's #1 defense against invasion and the absolute engine of its commerce and imperial growth. The city grew from the river, not the other way around.
But all of that incredible success, it came at a terrible, terrible price. The very river that gave the city life was about to be killed by it. And this led to a moment of crisis that would force one of the greatest engineering feats of the entire age.
And you know, this wasn't some new problem. This quote here is from King Edward III, all the way back in 1357. It shows that London had been using the Thames as an open sewer for centuries. But as the city's population just exploded during the Industrial Revolution, this ancient, foul habit went from being just gross to being horrifically deadly. The human cost was absolutely catastrophic. That number on your screen, 4, that's the number of devastating cholera epidemics that ripped through London between 1832 and 1865. With the invention of the flush toilet, London's cesspools just overflowed, channeling raw human sewage directly into the river, the very same river people were still getting their drinking water from. Tens of thousands died. The river of life had become a river of death.
Things finally came to a head in the scorching summer of 1858. A massive heat wave literally baked all that raw sewage sitting in the river, creating a stench so overpowering it became known as the Great Stink. I mean, it was so bad that Parliament, sitting right there on the riverbank, couldn't even function. That crisis finally forced them to act. The solution came from a genius engineer named Joseph Bazalgette. He designed a revolutionary sewer system, these huge interceptor sewers that ran parallel to the river, catching all the waste before it got there and carrying it far downstream. It was a masterpiece, and it still serves London today. But just as one threat was contained, another one emerged. A deadly flood in 1953 showed just how vulnerable London was to the sea. This led to another monumental project, the construction of the incredible Thames Barrier in the 1980s, which still protects the city from catastrophe.
So the river was saved from sewage and it was secured from the sea. But what about the river itself? Had centuries of pollution killed it for good? Well, the story of its revival is maybe its most remarkable chapter yet.
Now, this is a shocking statement, but it's absolutely true. Even with the Victorian sewers, decades of industrial pollution meant that by the 1950s, a huge stretch of the tidal Thames was officially declared biologically dead. It was anaerobic, meaning there was literally zero oxygen left in the water for anything to breathe. No oxygen, no fish. It was just a toxic, bubbling soup. But fast forward to today. Thanks to decades of cleanup efforts and stricter regulations, life has returned in the most spectacular way. The Thames estuary is now home to a colony of around 700 seals. Harbor porpoises and even bottlenose dolphins are now regularly spotted. And this part just blows my mind. Scientists have found short-snouted seahorses, and even two species of shark, the taupe and the starry smoothhound, living and breeding in the river. Yes, sharks. Salmon, which couldn't survive for decades, are now migrating upstream again. It is one of the world's great urban environmental recovery stories.
So today, the river's identity is more complex than it's ever been. It's a real multitasker. It provides a huge amount of London's drinking water. It's a vibrant hub for leisure and sport, a critical habitat for all that wildlife that's come back, a massive tourist attraction, and yep, it's still a working port. It truly does it all.
So from a Roman crossing to an imperial highway, from a stinking sewer to a thriving ecosystem, the Thames has always been a mirror, reflecting the story of the city on its banks. It's shown London's ambition, its neglect, its incredible ingenuity, and its resilience. And that leaves us with one final thought. As we face new challenges like climate change and plastic pollution, what story will this liquid history have to tell in the centuries to come?